The F-15E has already been nerfed one day after the update. We all saw this coming. It had a ridiculous amount of thrust. It could go way too fast. Planes simply cannot maintain Mach 2.2 while pulling 8-9 Gs at 10,000 meters. I'm really sorry for the F-15 fans out there. I also love the F-15, my favorite plane in the world, as some of you probably already know, but what we had was ridiculous, and I'm very happy to see this nerf. The most notable change is that it's just simply slower at all altitudes. I especially noticed this, and you'll probably see it in the gameplay here. That's why I leave a lot of the downtime in as I'm climbing and just flying into battle. At high altitude, you used to be able to get up to Mach 1.8 into Mach 2 extremely fast. You just level out for a second, but look at me now. I'm actually I'm chugging along, to be fair. I am accelerating, I'm getting up there, but it's taking way longer than it did before. And I'll tell you guys, in my playthrough today, I really never saw this thing getting Mach 2. The highest, or the fastest I'd ever get at these kind of altitudes is about Mach 1.8, 1.9 if I'm flying in a straight line for a very long time. And other than that, it doesn't really go much faster. As far as evading goes and pulling the elevator and stuff like that, it does maintain speed still quite well. I assume a lot of that has to do with the compression, but it's not nearly as bad as before. You're not going to be accelerating through your turns at 10,000 meters at Mach 1.8. You will actually lose some speed finally. And I want to take a quick second before we go any further. If you guys want a really cool decal to pair with your F-15 Eagle, check this one out on screen. You can get it by using my discount link in the description down below. Anything you buy in the Gaijin store, using that link will give you that decal, even if it's only $1 worth of golden eagles. So this thing doesn't fly around at Mach 2 anymore, which is great. I honestly like this version of the F-15E. I think this is a pretty good implementation of the F-15E. It will continue to be nerfed more than likely. It's still a little bit too much thrust for what it should have, as I'm told anyway. So do expect to see more nerfs in the future, and it's gonna look probably just like the Gripen, where it was added completely busted. They give it a little bit of a nerf one day after the update, and they'll probably incrementally tone this thing down over time. That being said, I am a lot more happy with this one. I think this one is a lot more fair. It does offer some pros and cons compared to other aircraft. You've got pretty much the best BVR fighting aircraft in the game while not being absolutely completely busted like it was on day one, and the drawback is, of course, you're one of the worst dogfighters in the NATO aircraft lineup. That being said, I do think it's still very obviously the best top tier plane in the game right now. It's probably not even close, and I would like to see this thing be 14.0 battle rating. But my point is, it's not as glaringly busted as it was just yesterday. The top speed at sea level, I believe, was also nerfed. It's around Mach 1.2 or something like that. Not quite sure on that one, but I do know that it no longer rips at sea level. You can't redline and rip your wings off like you used to be able to. And something kind of funny to note is that while both the F-15E and the F-15I do have some actual drag modeled now, it seems, the F-15I is actually a little bit better than the F-15E now, probably around like 1% if it's anything like real life better than the F-15E, because it has turkey feathers on the exhaust nozzles, which does help to reduce drag. And it seems Gaijin has modeled this because the F-15I right now does have less drag than the F-15E. So overall, after the nerf here on day 2 of the update, much better than before. This is honestly how it should have came to the live server. I don't know why it didn't. I can't imagine it was that hard to tweak, and this is exactly why I make the videos on the dev server that I do, where it kind of seems like I'm freaking out about all this stuff that's obviously subject to change, right? But it never does, and this is a perfect example of that being the case. The F-15E added broken, completely busted Mach 2.3, slinging off AMRAAMs, and then one day later it gets nerfed, and we'll see this pattern continue probably. I'm told to expect more nerfs in the future, not too much probably, but it probably will come incrementally. They will tone this thing down a little bit. I do believe that this plane is without a doubt the best jet at BVR in the game. Overall, just the best top tier in the game for 16 versus 16 battles. Between the flight performance, the radar, the RWR, the loadout, and the amount of countermeasures you have, it's just all around perfect for today's top tier environment. And let's take one more second to appreciate the new afterburners, and some of that heat blur effect coming off of them. This update looks way better than the old afterburners, and I do like that there's several different versions too. The older jets have more of that like clean orange looking burn, and then the Sukhois have their blue ones, and then some of the more modern NATO ones have this like purpley orange. I don't know, it just all looks really good, and I applaud Gaijin for finally making that change. While we're on the topic of applauding Gaijin, I do want to give them props for being so quick to change the F-15E. A lot of times they'll add something to the live server that was obviously broken on the dev server, but it takes them days and days or even weeks before they actually rebalance it and make it in much more acceptable state. So the fact that it only took them one day this time is a huge improvement. That said, it would be really awesome if they actually use the dev server for what you would think it'd be used for, gather some information, gather some feedback, and make these changes before the live server even comes out. But you know what, a day's response time, that's pretty much as good as we're gonna get, I think. As you've seen for most of this gameplay, the overall playstyle, at least for me in the F-15E, really hasn't changed too much. Just the fact that you're overall slower is kind of going to decrease your ability to really reach the AMRAAM's legs out there and get those really long range kills, as well as you do have to be much more careful when it comes to defending missiles. You have plenty of countermeasures in F-15s, so I'm pretty liberal with my chaff usage. If I even think that there's an AMRAAM coming, and if I'm relatively close to a notch already, I'm just going to go ahead and hit that notch and drop as much chaff as I feel like I need to. You're really never going to run out with the F-15. And just like in this clip and probably all the other clips, you see me around the Mach 1.4 range. That's pretty typical. Not that it is slow by any means, because that's still very fast compared to the other jets in the game right now. And it really doesn't have a problem keeping that Mach 1.4, even going up into Mach 1.6, Mach 1.7 pretty easily, even after these nerfs. You can see the climb rate still magnificent. You can throw it into a 30 degree, 40 degree climb and continue accelerating, no issue. Just overall a magnificent plane right now, and definitely is the best, probably will be the best for the foreseeable future. I've already covered this plane once. You guys already know what the F-15C is like. I'm not going to spend much more time talking about this thing. I don't want to just bore you with random bullshit just to talk for the sake of talking. So I will leave the last gameplay up if you want to watch that in just full volume and watch it for background footage or whatever. But as far as commentary goes, this is it. Hope you guys enjoyed the F-15E. I think it's in a really good state right now. Well, it's not in a really good state. It's in a much better state right now than it was yesterday. I do look forward to seeing some minor nerfs coming forward. Hopefully not too much. I don't want them to kill the F-15 by any means, but I think it could be tuned down just a little bit more still. But overall, much better than day one. So I'll see you guys later. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the footage.